Collective Heads. I apologize for anybody who tuned into the first not so great turning out of this attempted stream. I'm Kevin for This Week in Our Collective Heads, and I just finished watching the Sony conference, and it was amazing, like just absolutely stunning. They started off with video games, and then they talked about video games, followed it up with some VR video games, and finished with some video games, and then went to more video. They just like the entire thing. They just I was having to take care of some stuff back and forth, but like they just shoved wonderfulness at me, and it was a really solid performance. There wasn't a oh well, I guess this is what's going on. I mean, it's like the whole thing, the whole conference, just beginning to end, was just on point, and it just worked all the way through. And yeah, like they started with God of War. God of War, I've beaten the first two. I've been playing the VR or the VR, the Vita ones, because they've been free on PlayStation Plus, and you know that's cool and everything. But Kratos himself as a character has never worked for me. Just he's not interesting. He's just that's all he is. They're rebooting God of War. It's a Norse thing. And it's awesome. It's so good. I mean, he's just like that's an actual character with an actual like sense of self, and yeah, and he's trying to help this kid become a person, and like Kratos had more personality in this little 3 to. No, it was longer than 3 minutes. Probably 10 minutes. 10 minutes worth of stuff going on. He had more personality in this segment than I feel like he's had for the rest of the series. Like, he has the rage. That's all he's ever had. This God of War, this Kratos, is a person. An actual valid person. I loved it. Days Gone was announced from Bend Studio, and I missed out on a point here because I actually had in my notes that Bend was going to announce a new IP. But then I thought that they had done the Dead Don't Ride or something. Like I thought it had been rumored at one point that they had something else going on. And I was like, I guess I'll strike that one off. Should have kept it. Days Gone looks like Last of Us meets World War Z. Like they've got the swarming characters and all this kind of stuff going on, and it's like it looks overwhelming. It looks hopeless, and I want to play it. Like it just looks really really intense and scary and not like because when we play video games, we're all about roar, I destroy all the things, power, and all that kind of, the whole power fantasy thing. This is different. This is an interesting story and an interesting character and an interesting world. It just looks phenomenal. And we haven't heard from Bend since before the PlayStation 4 was released. And if you recall, that was some time ago. So yeah, Days Gone by Bend looks fantastic. We have a Last Guardian release date. Last year they were like, it's alive and it's well and it's kicking. See you next year. And we got excited about that because we honestly thought it was dead. But like we have a release date, October 25th. And they showed like multiple bird doggy creatures because the one that we see is Trico or whatever, but his name's Bird Dog, or her name, its name. I don't know much about bird dog gender, sexual identification things. I don't know. Not a zoologist. But yeah, looks good, and I like the idea of like having this creature kind of watching over you and everything. And then having other creatures, similar power, maybe not watching over you so much. That looked good. They showed more gameplay from Horizon Zero Dawn, which we really haven't seen anything of since last E3. And it had like dialogue options, and like she reprogrammed one and mounted it and took off, and like reprogramming and like counter programming and all this crazy stuff. And it before it looked like a really interesting concept, and it looks really fun. But like we got to see a lot of more of the kind of the menu system and how things are set up, and it I am curious. There's 3 or 4 times when like time would slow down and she'd be drawing the bow or whatever. And I'm curious how that works. Is it like a Sands of Time thing where we get like these temporary slowdowns, we can only use it so much or whatever, or is it when you're doing certain actions? Like, how is that going to work? So I don't know, but that game continues to look good. And my girls out here, you saw them if you watched any of the previous streams, but like they were really excited about it, and they were like, who's that? And I'm like, I don't remember her name, but I'm gonna get that game because yeah, Horizon Zero Dawn looks outstanding. That's not a thing we're getting this year, but we will get it before next E3. Probably. Yeah. And this is supposed to be a summary, so I'll try to pick it up, but I'm excited. Okay, so January 24th, Resident Evil 7 Biohazard is coming out. And that looks scary as all hell. Like they're going back all the way into the horror, into the real scary part of Resident Evil, the part that makes Resident Evil really awesome, and the reason we fell in love with it initially. Yeah, it looks good. There's a VR mode. I'm not sure exactly how this works. There's a couple of things that would be like demo out now, but when you're doing now at a live conference, now is, I mean, probably by now, but yeah, the Resident Evil 7 Biohazard demo should be available in some form by the time you see this. By the time I finish, check stuff. Yeah, sure, probably. I was having a difficulty. The search wasn't popping up in the online store. Maybe a couple of other people were looking at that. Yeah, we got a launch date for the PlayStation VR, previously known as Morpheus. I liked Morpheus. But that's coming out October 13th, and so that's, I guess, when the first round of shipments go out. And then they had this whole section of what they were, the various things that they were going to work on, starting with the Resident Evil 7. And yeah, Resident Evil does look dope. Like it looks so scary, and it's and like the low lighting, and like you've got your little sphere of light and you got to move it around, and like it's minimalist horror. It's not jump out and scare you. It's just this sense of dread that it seems to. I mean, that's what I got. Tell me what you got from the Resident Evil, the gameplay that they showed, and then they also had like kind of a cinematic element to it where there's like news broadcasts, and like you could hear police chatter, things like that, and it just really seemed to work in a cerebral way rather than a jump scare. So, all right, we'll see you next time. Or you can catch this on YouTube. Watch this on YouTube. Yeah. I do think it's funny. Brown Dog Pie Dog is actually in. Yeah. Anyway, X-Wing VR, which was fun because I had to leave the room for a second. I came back and I'm like, Star Wars music. What are they doing? But yeah, X-Wing VR looks really good. You're gonna hear that a lot. Like this stuff is exciting, and I really got a kick out of it. But yeah, X-Wing VR kind of reminded me. I don't know how many of you played like X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, but like that was what it reminded me of. But playing that in VR, yes, give me that. And then they had Farpoint, which is a VR shooter that's gonna be out. That there wasn't much information on that, and like I said, I was trying to do other things at the same time because adulting, it's hard. So Farpoint is a VR shooter. That's really all I have that I can say for sure. And then they also had Batman Arkham VR, which they just had a voiceover. I think that was actually I don't know. I'm not going to say who I think the voice was, but yeah, it was just Joker kind of monologuing about what's behind the mask. But that's going to be a VR experience by Rocksteady, and we haven't heard from them since Arkham Knight. So yeah, that could be astounding. The okay, I know I got like an unbelievable number of downvotes, but the Call of Duty with the space grappling and the stuff, that actually looked really cool and not like Call of Duty, which is appealing to me. I haven't played a Call of Duty since Black Ops. This first person experience looks really, really good, and I'm about that. And again, going back to, if y'all watched my response to the Microsoft conference, when they were doing the environmental stuff with Gears of War, that was very interesting. And with the Call of Duty, they've got this grappling hook mechanic. They've got gravity coming on and off. They've got just a lot of really interesting things, and using the environment to your advantage in various ways. And I'm not that great of shooters, but if you give me something else interesting to do, yeah, I can grab a hold of that. So yeah, I don't know if it was an actual announcement, or because it's always the like first week or two in November, but that's coming out the 4th of November, the Infinite Warfare one. And Modern Warfare, I think, is coming out at the same time. I wasn't 100% sure on that, so don't quote me on that. But Modern Warfare will be out before the end of the year. I can say that with confidence. Force Awakens is coming out just a couple weeks. It seemed to start with a more serious tone than I'm used to with Lego games, but then Kylo Ren chopped up a bunch of fruit and vegetables that were being thrown at him and presented Rey with a salad. So I think the humor's still in there. But yeah, just a couple weeks, and then okay. So the best way to the whole thing was Alana Pierce. Whenever he came out, the way that they revealed Crash Bandicoot Remastered, which is 1, 2, and Warped are being remastered, and then they put them in Skylanders Imaginators. The Imagination one, Skylanders. Crash Bandicoot's going to be in that, but he came out and they showed like kind of a top down view of the stage, and he had a Crash Bandicoot shadow. And Lana Pierce tweets out from IGN, tweets out, so he's got a Crash Bandicoot shadow. I've got this one of some lady. How do I upgrade that? And if you find out how to upgrade your shadow to Crash Bandicoot, you gotta tell me, because I would be all about that. Kojima, his next game was actually revealed. Like, he came out on stage and said, "Thank you everybody for coming," and here is Death Stranding. Mark Cerny is helping him out with it, and Norman Reedus was in it, and I think he gave birth via cesarean to a tar baby. So yeah, Kojima hasn't lost his touch with what moments in video games. Like, he's given us another one. So I'm at the very least I'm interested in seeing what happens there. But yeah, Norman Reedus and some kind of weirdness going on there. And then the last thing that they showed was an Insomniac Spider-Man game, and I went back to the back of the house and to get something before I started streaming, and and my wife goes, "What were you squealing about?" And hadn't realized that I had, but I was like, probably the Spider-Man game. It's people I trust. It looks really pretty. Yeah, I want it. I need it. I'm gonna play it. So yeah, Insomniac Spider-Man game. I'm all about that. So also for the entirety of the show, they had like a live orchestral thing going, and it was amazing. It was fantastic, and like it just kind of set the stage and kept everything going. They didn't talk about TV. They didn't talk about tie-ins. They just game, and yeah, it was there wasn't really a lull. I didn't see Shu. I thought that was weird. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I just missed him. But yeah, Sony's conference was wonderful, and I'm very excited about the things that they did, the things that they're showing, and they had some things that were coming out, in the spring. We've got Last Guardian, which is coming out this fall. We've got the Insomniac Spider-Man game. I would assume they started on that after they finished the bouncy, splatty energy drink game, Sunset Overdrive, which was fairly soon after the Xbox One released. So I figure we'll have Spider-Man planned for holiday next year, actually released spring 2018. But yeah, so tell me what you thought, and if you were as impressed as I was with all this. And yeah, so we'll see you next time, and I'll see you next week. TWIOCH is also going to start doing a live show on Sundays at 10 o'clock in the morning, and then we'll post that to YouTube afterwards. We've figured out some more stuff, and we're really excited about it. And this is moving on into a new area. And this was our first E3. We're going to continue with Nintendo tomorrow, and we'll see where we go from there. And Patrick will continue to have week or nightly summaries of the events as they unfold. So hit us up in the comments, let us know what you thought, and we will see you next time. Thank you.